Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we reach the end of our first 1000 penguins by covering books 901 to 1000 in the main penguin series. Now there's some absolutely fantastic authors in this particular run. A lot of my favourites: George Orwell, Agatha Christie, P.G. Wodehouse, John Wyndham, the list goes on, and there's some fantastic books for us to have a look at today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so we'll start with Penguin 901, which is A Voyage to Perilia. Elmer Rice, don't know much about this one. Straight fiction title. 902 is James N. Cain. He was an American crime writer. Yeah, famous for the Postman Always Rings Twice. And Mildred Pierce. I guess they were his two most famous ones. 903 is The Sure Thing, Merle Miller. Really nice condition copy of that one. It's probably unread. Oh, that's quite interesting. It's a this particular signature here. I didn't actually know that. So see this is from H. Arnold. I don't know if you can quite see that in the corner there. H. Arnold. It's dated Jan 29. Is that 1953 when this one came out? Yeah, so Harry, I think he was called Harry Arnold. He was a penguin warehouse man for many, many years, right back to the earliest days. And he picked up a copy of every single penguin as they were published, because I guess they were there. And he put his little name inside. So that's from that sort of ex-penguin employee. So quite a nice association copy, that one. The Last Frontier, Howard Fast, another really nice condition one. And that's the same, actually, from the same collection. There's a little signature on the side. So if you've got it in your collection and they've got that H. Arnold in the corner, yeah, it was a great collection that came under auction probably about 20 years ago, as I recall. And the bulk of it ended up in the hands of a dealer called Brian Kesterton, a very, very nice chap. Sadly, no longer with us, but what a font of penguin knowledge. And he was so helpful to me when I was first starting to collect penguins all those years ago. Here's our first crime one today, Erskine Childers, The Riddle of the Sands. And the first I would call real classic book, Tender is the Night, F. Scott Fitzgerald, a real classic, this one. Obviously famous for The Great Gatsby, which Penguin had published a few years beforehand. Franz Kafka. I mean, the list is incredible at this point, isn't it? You have to say this is 907. The Trial. And we're starting to see a little bit of a mixture of different cover styles now as times were changing in the mid-50s, and publishing in general, particularly in the UK, was changing at an astonishing pace. John Buchan, The Three Hostages, and of course these came out a long, long time ago. So yeah, this was published in 24. Penguin did their edition in 1953. Whether this was the first paperback edition, I don't know, but certainly around this sort of time, a couple of years earlier, Pan Books had published their John Buchan's, the Richard Hannay trilogy, all came out in Pan a few years before that. Winston Clues is 909, Journey into Spring. Bit of a rough copy compared to the other ones we've been looking at, isn't it? This is probably one that I picked up out in the wild in my early years of collecting. Georgette Heyer, great author. Devil's Cub, absolutely mint, this one. This is another really, really nice copy of this one. 1953. It's lovely when they're brand new like that. It's great. But sadly, they don't all turn up in that condition. Earl Stanley Gardner, great crime novelist, 911. This is The Case of the Substitute Face. Great stuff. 911. So 912 is The Case of the Lame Canary, another Earl Stanley Gardner one. There's someone's initials on the front cover of my copy there. Good to have. And then 913 is Out of Africa. Karen Blixen. This is one in the travel and adventure sort of series. A little bit thicker, so it's a 2 and 6 rather than a 2 shilling. little bit of page edge foxing on that one, but this is 1954. John Dixon Carr, 914, Death Watch. And you notice, by this time, you could say just under half the list was crime. And it was obviously selling like hotcakes, and Penguin had one hell of a brand, didn't they? Simple as that. E.C. Bentley then, Trent Intervenes. Then we got 916, A Freeman Willscroft, Death of a Train. It's one I've actually read a couple of, and I thought they were very good. The ones that I read are Freeman Willscroft's. I wouldn't call those cozy crime, though. I would call them more, certainly crime, but not quite cozy crime, shall we say. Here's another one here, the Cain mystery, and I have a feeling that Penguin did a Freeman Willscroft 5, as I recall. I'm just having a look to see if there is anything inside or not. I think there isn't, but often they would just publish 5 numerically simultaneously and just put them all out at once. Here's another one, 918. This is another Inspector French's Greatest Case, which is cool. Very, very nice. I love the Penguin crime books. So 919 is The Loss of the Jane Vosper. I wonder what the Jane Vosper was. Of course, it doesn't say on the back. It just gives that little biography of Freeman Willscroft. About this part, here we are. The Loss of the Jane is a magnificent drama, told quietly and impressively. It's a boat. On its way across the Atlantic, the Jane Vosper is a boat, and it explodes and sinks. And that's what that book's about. Aha. Okay, 920 is the 1230 from Croydon, and this does make up the 5th Freeman Willscroft's title. So it was a Willscroft 5 there. Then we got number 921, Pamela Hansford Johnson, An Avenue of Stone. Straightforward fiction. So 922 is The Brave Bulls by Tom Lee. Nice with that little vignette on the front. This is another really, really tight copy, and it is also from the Harry Arnold Penguin collection. So that's why that one's in particularly nice shape. 923 is Bullets for the Bridegroom, David Dodge. Now, this one's great because as some of my friends were getting married, I would always pass a copy of this vintage Penguin to the bridegroom on either on their wedding day or like the day before the wedding day. I would just do it as a bit of fun. So whenever lists came out, so we mentioned Brian Kesterton earlier, and other lists, I would always pick up spare copies of this because I had a lot of friends getting married around that time. It is quite a shame that although this is the first edition, the copy that has ended up after all these years in my collection is actually quite a little bit foxed compared to some of the other ones, because I'm sure I've given better copies away. But I used to do it as a bit of fun. Next then we have The Body in the Library. Now this is obviously Agatha Christie, and I believe this is another Christie top 10, or not top 10, but another Christie 10 or a million, as it were. So yeah, this is part, down the bottom here it says, this is part of a new Penguin collection of 10 books by Agatha Christie, which are issued by arrangement with Collins, the original publishers. Each book contains a special introduction by the author. A list of the other titles appears on the inside back cover. So yeah, so these are really nice editions because they all feature an exclusive, unique Agatha Christie introduction. So the publisher's note, Agatha Christie was the first crime writer to have 10 books published simultaneously as Penguins. This new selection of a further 10 in Mrs. Christie's own choice, and for each she has written a short foreword, printed over leaf, in which she gives a background to the story, explains how she came to write it, and says something of her reasons for including it among her 10 favourite novels. How cool is that? And there they are. That's her little introduction there. And then at the back, we do have a list of the other ones, which we'll see in a minute. Murder of Roger Ackroyd, Body in the Library, Death Comes as the End, Death on the Nile, Laborers of Hercules, Miss Marple and the 13 Problems, The Moving Finger, Mysterious Mr Quinn, Parker Pine Investigates, and Crooked House. Brilliant. So that was 924, and I guess up to 934 will be all Agatha Christie. So here they are, Crooked House. It's the second one. I think what we'll do there, just to give it a little bit more room, I'm just going to pause and pull the camera out a touch. There we are. Then we got 926, Death Comes as the End. And I have to wonder, I know these were printed on special request, these were printed as part of the Agatha Christie top 10. I do have to wonder what the other publishers, so they were being published at the same time by Fontana, which was Collins's own paperback imprint, and Pan Books. So I wonder how they managed to get round all the different rights at the same time. I really don't know. 927 is Death on the Nile. (928) The Laborers of Hercules. They're lovely, these editions. Although I have to say, I think my favourites are the Pans out of all of them. I think they're my favourites. There we are, 929. Miss Marple and the 13 Problems. (930) is The Moving Finger. Just have a little check. I wanted to check the dates of these. I think they are all 1956, aren't they? 1953. That's a little ahead of myself. 931, The Mysterious Mr Quinn. This is quite a foxed old copy. It's a shame I did actually just miss out on a little lot of Agatha Christie's on eBay lately. But, they were only going to be replacing some of the ones I already had. But that is one that is quite a bit dirty, that one I could use a better copy of. And then 932 is Parker Pine Investigates. So that completes that second Christie 10, where they published 100,000 of each book and published 1 million titles in one foul swoop. How cool is that, eh? She must have been loving it. Next, we have a run of 5 P.G. Woodhouses. I think they did this a couple of times in Penguin. So this is number 933. I mean, what a list, eh? The Imitable Jeeves. I do love all the Jeeves and Worcester books. I absolutely adore P.G. Woodhouse, more so as I've got older. I find the books just effortless to read, and it's like it just takes you back to the 1920s, 1930s when they were written. I just love them to death. So that was that one. 934 is Right Ho Jeeves. If you haven't quite got time to read all the books, which I would recommend, the Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie adaptation is probably the best out there. 935, a very nice copy of The Code of the Worcesters. A little bit of foxing, but apart from that, a beauty. 1953 again. Leave It to Smith, 936. And 937 is Big Money by P.G. Woodhouse. Lovely, good stuff. Lovely little 5, that. And every single one an absolute classic, I think you will agree. Next, we've got 538, The Night Walkers, James Norman. (939) The Case of the Stuttering Bishop, another Earl Stanley Gardner. Wonder how well those editions went compared to the rather fetching Pan editions. I don't know. So 940 was The Spectator crossword puzzle book. So it's in its distinctive yellow colours. Very nice to have this advert for Agatha Christie on the back there. A new Agatha Christie 10. Great stuff. And there they are. Just usually, when you find crossword books, certainly the first couple that have ever been attempted, and then people just give up. And that seems to be the case so often. I can never be bothered to actually erase someone's attempt. But that was number 940. 941, Three Sisters Flew Home, Mary Fitt. 942, Rex Warner, Greeks and Trojans. 943, Mary Roberts Reinhardt, bit of a slightly beaten up copy of The Yellow Room. Comes the Blind Fury, Douglas Rutherford. So I have got all the Penguins between 901 and 1000, so I'm not missing any physical copies. But certainly a few of these could do with a bit of an upgrade. And I have got a big list of books that I do want to upgrade. 945 is 100 Puzzles from the Daily Telegraph, the 4th series of Daily Telegraph crossword puzzles. You do find that crossword puzzle books are a little harder to get your hands on these days, and they do tend, if you're patient, you can generally get them for under a tenner each, but I often see them online at £20. I thought, do they ever sell at that? I mean, I would never pay 20 quid for a crossword book. I mean, blimmin' heck. 946, Jassy, Nora Lofts. So even the wartime ones I've not paid too much for, and they're legendary scarce, but I just refuse, 947, The Case of the Constant Suicides, John Dickson Carr. And I think this is possibly a 5 or 4 of John Dickson Carr. He Who Whispers, 948. So 949 is the Emperor's Snuff box. And I do also have another copy of this one, which has been bound into a hardback, which is a little bit unusual. It is something that's been done on an amateur basis. It's nothing published by Penguin. They've put the spine on the back, but it does appear, I wonder how they've done it, where they've maybe taken the cover off and rebound it round. But it's probably been done, possibly, it's the inside there, you've got BP 1063. Now that could mean so many things, but it could be from some sort of library where they wanted a more permanent form of that particular book. But I picked it up. It's one that came my way. It's more curiosity than anything that was ever published by Penguin, but I think it's quite nice all the same. 950 then is Till Death Us Part. Till Death Us Do Part. So it was a run of four John Dickson Carrs. Then 951 is the Manchester Guardian 4th crossword puzzle book, 951. And they're, once again, this one's quite a nice condition copy. List of the more recent Pelicans on the back there. And amazingly, that hasn't got any of the crosswords even attempted, so that's quite good news. 952 is The Case of the Counterfeit Eye, Earl Stanley Gardner. And that we have run out of room again, so let me pull the camera out one last time. So 953 is Murder of My Aunt, Richard Hull. 954, Tom Brown's Body, Gladys Mitchell. Starting a new column over there. 955, Edward Campion, Evelyn Waugh again. Another great author. 956 is our first plays title, which is 4 English Tragedies. Quite an unusual design compared to what we've been used to seeing. Advert for the Pelican History of Art at the back. That's a series and a half, one that I've never attempted to collect. 957, so Oscar Wilde, Selected Essays and Poems. Many happy returns, Lillian Antoine. Oh, look at that. That's why that's cut, it's slightly miscut. There we are, look at that. 958, Loving, Henry Green. 959, Carl Brams and S.J. Simon. 6 curtains for Stroganova. Big old one coming up now. Huge book, and that is the first Penguin edition of Jane Eyre. Charlotte Bronte, 960. So, a few years back, Penguin would have just had this as a double volume, but now it's just gone up by 6pence to make it just a 2 and 6 in total book. A blue for biography. The Healing Knife, 961, George Sava. Another big one again. Lucinda Brayford, Martin Boyd, 962. Huge old book, that. But still only 500 pages. So not perhaps as big as you might think, but big for what we've been looking at, compared to what we've been looking at. 963, Trio, Dorothy Baker. It's quite a nice copy of that one. So next, 964 is The Case of the Borrowed Brunette by Earl Stanley Gardner. And this starts a little run of 5 Earl Stanley Gardners, a little Gardner 5 as it were. 965, The Case of the Drowsy Mosquito. 966, The Case of the Sleepwalker's Niece. One thing I've noticed, like this one here, for example, has got some pen marks and stuff inside, pencil marks. And that's because, unlike a lot of my recent vintage paperback pickups that I film and put on the channel, my Penguins are some of the oldest books that I ever collected, and I didn't really religiously go through and clean them all up. And it's unfortunately something that I need to do right back to Penguin number 1, is go through every book and check that it's clean. And in a way, I wish I'd done that when I was going through this 1,000 books, 100 at a time. But we're not really here to look at me cleaning the books and getting them nice copies. It's just to see the actual books and see how the design has changed over that period from 1935 right up to it's going to be 1954, 55, isn't it? 967, The DA Calls a Turn. 968, Murder Up My Sleeve. 969, One Pair of Feet. I seem to remember this is super common. I used to just see copies everywhere. Really weird. Don't know why. 969. 970, As I Was Going Down Sackville Street. Nice copy of that one. Start a new little pile over there. 971, Uncle Fred in Springtime, so another P.G. Wodehouse. Now, 972 is a very, very famous Penguin book, and that is the first Penguin edition of 1984, which obviously by one of my favourite authors, George Orwell. Absolutely iconic book. I have multiple copies of it. I've got a couple with me, which I kept in my with the main run. In 1954, that one first came out. So I've got this slightly later edition. This is a 60s one. The cover details the control room, Civil Defence Headquarters by William Roberts. Really nice jacket on that one. I have done, this was from 1966, I have done a dedicated video on George Orwell in Penguin books, so I will link to that one so you can go and have a look, because there's some fantastic editions of his books, and I pretty much got most of them. So this was just a later edition of 1984, very, very attractive one. I was in the book trade when I was given a copy of this. So when was this new edition? 2013. So even this was 7 years ago. But I remember it making quite a stir when that little one came out, and it was under the great Orwell imprint. Good stuff. 973 is The Case of the Abominable Snowman, Nicholas Blake. 974, Edmund Crispin, Love Lies Bleeding. And 975 is The Floating Dutchman, Nicholas Bentley. (976) Rex Stout, Red Threads. Lots of crime, lots of the green here, as you can see, mixed in amongst the other bits and bobs. 977 Death of a Doll, Hilda Lawrence. Our third crossword book, if you can believe it, the Time and Tide crossword books. They must have been selling, I guess. Number 978. Once again, just the first, looks like the first one has been like literally six clues have been done. That's it. So 979, Maiden Voyage, Denton Welsh. 980, The Heyday in the Blood. 981, Can You Tell Me? A quiz selection of 500 questions, their scope ranging from famous last words to Dutch auctions and heraldry. Norman and Margaret Dickson. So this is one of their miscellaneous titles. Looks like a bit of fun. Can You Tell Me? 981. 982 is Peter Quinnell's Byron, The Years of Fame. 983 is the fourth volume of Famous Trials. Very, very foxed copy, that one. I should be able to use these videos to go back and see which ones are my copies I need to upgrade. Though I have to say, quite a few since I started, which was, we're talking months ago now. I have already filled in some of the ones I've been missing, and I have upgraded a few. 984, from slightly poor quality to an absolute minter. This Nancy Mitford one, absolute beauty. 984. Look at that! I mean, look at that! Look how nice it is. Someone asked me recently in the comments. They said, "Have you got any really, really old books that are just like new and unread?" I said, "Well, yeah, I have. I've got some from the mid-30s that are as good as this. When you take the wrapper off, especially, they're just mint beyond belief. And I love books that are in that condition, although they don't come along very often." Couple of PG Woodhouses now. So 985 is Blandings Castle. So by this point, Penguin were publishing Woodhouse at an extreme pace, and I think they were trying to get the whole lot out. So yeah, this was originally 1935, but published in Penguin in 1954. Pan had published a couple of PG Woodhouses in around that sort of time, 51, 52, and that was it. So I don't know who was publishing Woodhouse in paperback until Penguin came along, and then they embraced it with both hands, and along they came, and it was great stuff. I love the Penguin editions, I really do. The current editions by Vintage are also particularly nice. They're very, very nice. 986 then, that was 986, this is 987, 100 crossword puzzles from the Scotsman now, number 987. So in actual fact, 4 crossword books in this single 100 penguins. Quite interesting, that. Edmund Crispin, 988, The Case of the Gilded Fly. Looks a suave fella, doesn't he, on the back there? 989, The Immaterial Murder Case, Julian Simmons. 990, The Daughter of Time, Josephine Tay, another great author. 991, Blood Upon the Snow, Hilda Lawrence. "992, Keep It Quiet," Richard Hull. One of my all-time favourite novel is 993, the first Wyndham in Penguin, Day of the Triffids. And here's a slightly later 60s copy of Day of the Triffids. Just love the book. I have done a whole dedicated video just looking at all the different editions of Day of the Triffids that I've got. I've got about 20 in total. Right from the very first British hardback, I've got multiple paperback editions, American paperbacks, there's all sorts. Absolutely love the book, so do check that one out if you're interested in John Wyndham. 994 is Quick Service, Woodhouse again. Got that one quite recently. I upgraded my copy. I found a few Woodhouses online from a chap I've been buying a few books off. 995, and they were an original owner collection, and they were particularly nice condition, so I've been able to upgrade a few of them. He was the same guy who had the Agatha Christie's that I sadly missed out. They went for a lot of money. So, Ricey Man Steps, Arnold Bennett, 996. Don't know much about this particular one, I have to say. And this was the first of 4 Arnold Bennett. So Clayhanger was 997. Big old thick book, that one. Another thick one, 998, which is The Old Wives' Tale. Look at the size of it. But still just under 600 pages, so not enormous, but big enough, I suppose. Let's pop that one over there. And then Arnold Bennett again, 999. The Journals of Arnold Bennett. Then number 1000, as I'm sure any self-respecting Penguin fan knows, was given the honour to Edward Young. So Edward Young was the gentleman who in 1935 was dispatched to London Zoo to start sketching the penguins in London Zoo to get an idea of what to come up with for the penguin logo. War broke out. He ended up as a commander, and he was in charge of a submarine. And this is his war memoirs. And I guess as a bit of a thank you, because he did come back and rejoin the company, he was given the honour of having the 1000th penguin given to him in July 1954. There we are, and they really went to town with the cover as well, didn't they? Great stuff. So there we go, we come to the end of our first 1000 vintage Penguin paperbacks, and wow, what a list, eh? What 1,000 books are included in that, so just some absolute gems. You'll never be sure of something to read if that's all you had. If you're locked in a room with the first 1,000 penguins, you could be entertained for decades, couldn't you? Let's be honest. Well, thank you very much for joining me on that journey. Now, many people have said, are you going to carry on after 1,000? Well, yes, I absolutely am. I collect penguins numerically up to about number 3,300. And we've just looked at the first 1,000. So I've probably got maybe 1,000 again, encompassing 1001 up to 3000. So we've got plenty to be getting on with, as well as all the other series as well that Penguin did. And we haven't even looked at the Pelicans, because I don't know, I'd need some feedback, because I just don't know if the interest is there to go through all the Pelicans. There's some quite dry titles, shall we say. But I've got, perhaps the first 800 Pelicans or so, with just a few missing that I'm tracking down. But there is other stuff we can look at. So I am very, very close to finishing my King Penguin collection. I've got 3 or 4 of those, so they'll be coming up. And then there's all the offshoots, and then there's memorabilia. There's so much within the world of Penguin that I'm sure I can keep coming up with a video a month for a few more years to come yet, should you want them. One thing that is coming up quite soon, once again, this has been requested, is to do a compilation video of all 1,000 books. So I'll take out the introduction and the endings. Maybe I'll film a new introduction possibly, and then we'll look at edited together all 1,000 penguins in one mega long, probably 6 to 7 hour video, which I think will be quite fun. Certainly one you could probably fall asleep to. But it might be a good way of having a reference. You can just work your way through and find a particular one that you might be looking for to see what it looks like in the flesh, maybe. Anyway, that is it for today. So thank you very much for joining me. If you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it the old thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing for regular vintage penguin content. There is already, as I'm sure you know, lots on the channel, and there's lots more still to come. And I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.